Hi my loves, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. Today we're talking about every single book I read in October, my October reading wrap up. I had a very good month this month in terms of amount of books. I read 12 books in the month of October, which as I said, for me is very good. So from that, we had 2 romances, 1 thriller, 3 fantasy, and 4 YA fiction. That's what we're gonna call them for now at least. And then 1 DNF as well, which I'll get into. I never DNF books, but unfortunately I had to this month. And I'm trying to get better at it because I don't want to force myself to read books I'm not interested in. Anyway, without further ado, let's just get started. So I started off the month with Daydream by Hannah Grace. This is her newest release in the Maple Hills universe. I wasn't super excited for this one to come out like a lot of people were, but I was definitely intrigued. I read Icebreaker and Wildfire a while ago, did enjoy both of them. I think they're good, fun, easy little romance reads. Probably liked Icebreaker more than Wildfire, but I am happy to say this is definitely my new favorite in the universe. I just thought it was so much fun. I loved our main protagonist. Basically, we are following Henry and Hallie. Henry is the hockey captain of his university team, and Hallie is just I feel like she just embodies every one of us, every one of us cozy girls. She wants to be a writer, she's a baker, she does little crafts, she loves reading, all of that kind of stuff. So I feel like you can just relate to her so well. And she is a people pleaser, which for me, that just instantly made me connect with her. So many of the things she was saying, I was just whoa, I feel like I've just been put into a book. But I feel like the reason I liked this one so much was because we were so focused on the connection between the two, on the chemistry between them, on their building their relationship. There's a friends to lovers with a kind of fake dating situation, and I feel I don't know, there was something about their connection and the way they communicated with each other. There was such good communication, which is so rare in romance books, and I loved that aspect of this. So yeah, it was definitely my favorite from the series. I really enjoyed it. I did think it could have been a little bit shorter. I think that might have made me a little bit more addicted to it and kind of get through it a little easier. This is Maisie here, by the way. But overall, I gave this a 4.25 stars. I did really enjoy it. I thought it was a quick, easy read. Nothing incredible, it didn't change my brain chemistry or anything like that, but I highly recommend it. Definitely a favorite from the series. I then read Brandon Sanderson's Well of Ascension. This has been on my TBR for a little while, and it has definitely been very intimidating to me, but I am so glad I got to it. This is definitely my top read of the month. I am obsessed with Brandon Sanderson. I think he is such a genius writer. The way he builds worlds and builds characters is so intricate and so well thought out. I just am absolutely obsessed with him. So the Well of Ascension is the second in the Mistborn series. Basically, in the world of Mistborns, people can weld metal to create magic. Only certain people have that ability though. The first one is kind of a heist situation. We have an amazing found family. I don't want to say too much because I feel going in blind really just makes it, and it is quite a confusing world to describe. I will say though, this is a YA series. So out of Brandon Sanderson is probably the easiest and best intro point to his world, which is why I'm starting with this series. Because I feel whilst it is quite complicated and there's a lot going on, it is still easy to get your head around, and it is quite digestible. I loved our characters in this. After book 1, my jaw was on the floor, and Brandon Sanderson never fails to shock me. Every time I think something won't happen, it happens. There is just no predicting where his books will go, and this was absolutely no exception. I thought this was amazing. I gave this a 5 stars. That's how much I loved it. Despite the fact that this is over 800 pages, I think, or was it 700? Just 800 pages. I sped through this. I could not stop reading it. He just has a way with writing. I don't know what to tell you. Absolutely obsessed with this one. I then picked up Quicksilver by Kelly Hart. This has been a book that has been just really intimidating to me for a long time because it has been getting so much hype on Book Talk, and I was is it really gonna be that good? Is it really gonna be as good as everyone is saying? And also, I'm not really one for spicy fantasy romances. I am so there for the small interactions and the small connections than the spicy romances, spicy dark romances. That's just not for me personally. When I tell you, this was so good. This was so good. I ate this book up. Oh my gosh. Another thing I was very scared about was that people were saying it was very similar, almost too similar to ACOTAR, and I was come on, I don't want to just basically read ACOTAR again. Personally, I thought it was completely different. I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. Straight off the bat, I had a really hard time rating this, but I ended up rating it a 4.75 just because I feel there are a few bits that I would have changed. I did feel it was a bit long, but overall I had a really good time. I loved our characters. I loved our main protagonist. I loved our love interest. And they're just the key things that you want to love in a fantasy book. I thought this world was also really fun. We are basically set in a world with Frey, so we've got Frey magic. Our main protagonist gets captured after she steals something from one of the guards in her city, and she gets taken to a palace. I went in blind to this though, and I really liked that I went in blind. I sped through it. I read it on my Kindle. It is getting traditionally published, so it's really hard to get physical copies of it at the moment in Australia, year because it's getting traditionally published in December, I believe. So I'll definitely be getting a physical copy when I can, because like I'm definitely going to be talking about this book quite often. But yeah, I really liked it. I really liked it so much more than I thought I was going to. I'm going to group these together because it makes sense. I reread the first 4 books in a series of unfortunate events. This is one of my all-time like childhood favorite books, or book series rather. I love the way Lemony Snicket writes. I think this is such a fun, unique kind of series, and I was just obsessed with it when I was younger. I also love the TV show. I feel like they did a really good job getting like the books to a TV show. Like I like the movie as well, but like I feel like the TV show really nailed it, and having Neil Patrick Harris as Count Olaf just was perfect. I loved it. So this is a favorite for me. It's a very sentimental series to me. I love them because they're so quick and little, and they're just really fun to read even as an adult. Like they're so, I don't know, I just feel like they hit every age group. Like you enjoy them as an adult. And also just this month, I've kind of wanted to have some like quick little reads that I can just speed through and don't have to think about too much. They're perfect. I kind of am just giving like the whole series like a 4 or 5 stars. I don't know. I'm not really rating them as I go because they're childhood series to me. They're sentimental. That's why I love them so much. Obviously, a series of unfortunate events is pretty like depressing. Like there's a lot of bad things that happen, but just the way Lemony Snicket writes, like that makes it so much better. If you don't know, I'll give you a quick synopsis. So we are following the 3 Baudelaire children who have just become orphans because their parents have just died in a house fire that has also just destroyed all their belongings and their entire house. They are left orphaned. They get put in the care of Count Olaf, who is a horrible, horrible man who is apparently scarcely related to them. But for some reason, they go into his care. The only reason he wants to care for them is so that he can access the Baudelaire fortune. So their parents left them with a massive fortune that they can access once the eldest, Violet, is of age. She's only 14 though. So Count Olaf is finding all these ways that he could possibly access this fortune and keep it for himself. It's just really fun. It's like an easy, fun little series. Highly recommend if you've never read it. And if you were wanting to do a reread, like I know I've been posting about it and so many people are like, I just wanted to be rereading this series so much. Like just do it. This is your sign to just do it. I love rereading books. I think it should be done more often. I then tried to read An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. Now this is my DNF for the month. I'm very sad about this, and I really thought I was going to love it because we are set at an academy for people with special powers of persuasion, and that premise in itself, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to love this. However, this is a dark academia, I would say. Dark academias seem to be a hit or a miss for me. I read Ninth House, and this gave me very similar vibes to Ninth House, and I didn't like Ninth House. It was just, there were some really dark themes in it that were just underlying, and I don't know, it makes me uncomfortable to read about it when there's like themes that kind of just make me uneasy. It's not like dark in the sense of like sexy, spicy dark. It's dark in the sense of like, look up trigger warnings just because these might be slightly triggering. And kind of the way she wrote about it, she was writing about these really dark things and just kind of placing it there. And that in myself, I was like having to reread them. I was like, did you just say that? I just, for some reason, didn't connect to this book like I wanted to. I really wanted to. The first half of it, I did like. I DNF'd it like with 100 pages to go, I think about here. So I got very close to the end, and I feel like that's enough to form a valid opinion on it. And I just knew I was trying to push myself through it, and I was like, I know that I'm not going to like this. I've just felt too uncomfortable this entire time, and the ending isn't going to change that reading experience for me. So I think if you like dark academia, you'll probably enjoy this. And if you like Ninth House, like you'll probably enjoy this. But just for me, it wasn't the kind of book that I was looking for. And I'm also a mood reader, so the fact that I wasn't in the mood for this probably contributed a lot to my thoughts about it. I then picked up Phantasma. This was so out of my comfort zone and so not me. Like I don't usually read books like this, but I was just so curious. I was really curious about it, and I just wanted to see what it was like. So this is basically, I would describe it as an adult version of Caraval. So it is like an adult fantasy version of Caraval. We have like this massive game aspect that happens, I think it's once a year, and there's all like these challenges. It's almost like you don't want to trust anything in this world because like you don't know what's reality, what's not reality. I found it really interesting, and I actually really liked it. This is set as a dark fantasy romance, and I think that it wasn't as dark as I was expecting. I was kind of preparing for it to be really dark because, as I said, I don't really read dark romances, but I think it was more dark in the fantasy sense. Like there was definitely some spicy scenes, and it was definitely more of a spicy book that I'm used to. But as someone who like doesn't care too much for them, like is more there for the interactions and like the small little glimpses of romance, like I was still given that. And that's what I wanted. It was an enemies to lovers kind of allies situation, which I really liked. I loved Blackwell, our love interest. I thought he was really cool. The main girl kind of annoyed me a little bit, but there's also a second book to this series that follows her sister, and that's coming out in April, I think, next year, which I am really excited for. I just thought it was again, took me by surprise on how much I liked it. Definitely spicier, but I could still skim past those scenes. So if you're like me, like you can still just kind of skim them. I read this in literally 2 days because it was so good and I just like couldn't put it down. It was the perfect read for spooky season. Like it was a very spooky fantasy and I really, really liked that. I really enjoyed it. And I just really liked the world. Like I really liked the world. It kind of almost gave me like Hunger Games vibes. Or The Games Gods Play, if you've read that, like kind of those vibes, but like more spooky and caraval-y. And yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. I'm kind of rambling about this not making sense in my head, but I hope it's coming out a little bit better than how I'm hearing it. I gave this one a 4 stars. Like it was fun, it was easy, I really enjoyed it. I then read Summer in the City by Alex Astor. This is my first book by Alex Astor, and after reading this, I definitely want to read Lightlark. I'm very curious about it now. And this is actually an arc I got kindly sent. It is coming out in March of 2025, so this is quite an early arc and I'm so grateful to have received it. Also, you guys in the US, like this has come all the way from the US to me, which blows my mind. But you have the nicest feeling books. Like why do your books feel so different to ours? Like ours are like paper and this is like I don't know how to describe it, but it feels really nice. This is basically a little chick flick set in New York City during the summer. We are following our main protagonist who is a screenwriter and she's got writer's block at the moment. And she has this opportunity to house sit a beautiful, beautiful apartment in New York. When she gets there, she realizes her neighbor is this billionaire she has had a run into that didn't end very well a few years ago. And she vividly remembers him. This is kind of, again, a fake dating situation. I honestly just felt like this felt like a 2000s rom-com. Like it literally just felt like a 2000s rom-com to me and I really liked that. I definitely needed that after all the fantasy I was reading. So easy to read. I read this in less than 24 hours again because like it's very little. It's not even 300 pages. So at least this copy is the art copy. So I just binged it. Like it was so easy to read. I will say there were a few chapters that felt a little bit rushed and I feel like that could have been expanded a little bit. I don't know if it will be by the time it's traditionally published. Yeah, I just felt like some of the ending chapters, it felt a little bit too rushed and I feel like there could have been a little bit more explaining and a little bit more reasoning on our main protagonist's part. I don't know, just make it make sense a little bit more if that makes sense. But I did enjoy it. I just thought it was a fun little read and I gave this a 4 stars. Easy, quick, like great to get out of a book slump kind of read. I also read The Boyfriend by Freddie McFadden. I actually read this earlier in the month, but I just forgot it till now. This was actually really good. I always read Freddie McFadden's books. Like if ever I'm just needing a quick book that I know I can finish in like a sitting, I always gravitate towards Freddie McFadden and this is her newest release. And this is definitely one of my favorite books by her. I did not expect it, but it was genuinely one of my favorite books by her. I just felt like it was really well paced. I didn't guess the plot twist at all. It really kept me guessing until like the last possible second. And just the setting of it, like we were set in New York. There were only a few characters involved that it could have been. And I feel like I guessed all the wrong ones. I don't know, I don't know how Freddie McFadden does it, but every single time she blows my mind. I'm obsessed. I won't talk too much about this one because it was just a very quick thriller. But if you're going into a book slump or you need a fast paced kind of thriller, like highly recommend. I then ended the month with Glow of the Everflame. This is the second book to Spark of the Everflame. I've been meaning to read this for quite a while and I finally got there. I've actually started Heat of the Everflame, which is the third book in the series and it is the final one out at the moment. So nervous, but Glow of the Everflame was so good. I am obsessed with this series. Like I am literally obsessed with this fantasy series. It's giving me the feels Akatar gave me. That's the best way I can describe it. A lot of people comment that like they hate Deem. I think that's how you pronounce her name, the main protagonist. They just think she's really stupid. And yes, she does, like some of the choices she makes, I go like, why aren't you seeing this the right way at the moment? And like, it does really annoy me. But if I'm going to be honest, a lot of fantasy books do. A lot of fantasy protagonists will really annoy me. So I've kind of just looked past that. And once you look past that, the world is absolutely amazing. Our main protagonists are amazing. I love our main love interest. Like this is amazing. As I said, it's the second book to a series, so I won't talk about the book in itself. We are set in a world with mortal and descended. So the mortal are obviously just human and then descended are people with magical abilities. There is quite a divide between the two. And our main protagonist is from the mortal world. Our love interest is from the descended world. Our main protagonist starts off as a healer. And I just really like that she wasn't like this amazing badass like action doing kind of girl from the beginning. Like she really has to work her way up and I really appreciate that. Like I like when they're not amazing, like they're not Feyre from the beginning. Let's just say that. I really like that. So I gave this book a 4.5 stars. Very close to a 5 stars, but I feel like just again, some bits that I feel like could have been sped up, some bits that could have been elongated, like just the pacing was a little bit off for me. But apart from that, I really enjoyed it. I really did. And it definitely had me shocked multiple times. And that is everything I read in the month of October. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a great reading month as well. If you made it this far, please comment a little fairy emoji. I love seeing who actually watches all my videos, and it means the world to me when you do. Like when I see those comments, I just my mood like rockets through the roof and I get such a big smile on my face. So thank you so much if you've watched till the end. I love you so much and I'll see you in my next video.